You are and where we're at, so.
Mark Ofte, Ball Watch, and I'm in Tampa, Florida. Ball Watch is the birthplace of the modern watch. The story starts in earnest in 1890. 6,500 Americans killed in train wrecks, 35,000 injured and maimed. Same thing happening in Europe. And here's why all those people died.
Because they all took trains.
They took trains.
There were no cars.
There were other problems. The way watches have been made for 300 years hadn't changed. You'd have a guy sitting at a bench, he'd build the watch from the plate out. If you had 30 of those guys, at the end of the day, you'd have 30 amazing watches, no two of which told time the same way. This proved to be problematic for vehicles that went 60, 70 miles an hour. Add to that, there were 57 official time zones in the United States in 1890.
How many?
And you had a wildly complex time matrix with fast-moving vehicles driven by guys that didn't know what time it was, and they were crashing into each other all over the continent. Like I said, the same thing was happening in Europe. In 10 years, Webb Ball changed the way the world thinks about time. He developed a new way of building watches where all the components were identically crafted, all the assembly identically performed. At the end of the day, all the watches told time identically. You know what we call that? An assembly line.
Oh, like that Henry Ford guy and the guy with the interchangeable parts.
And Henry Ford, yeah, Winchester and Eli Whitney and those
Yeah,
guys.
it was all that time, right? Into
Winchester and Eli Whitney were the suggested ideas. That's where Ball got the notion of crafting this way of building watches.
Standardization. How about that? The industrial age is born.
Henry Ford in 1897 spent a week in our factory, at the end of which he wrote in his journal, "I now know everything I need to know about how to put together a car."
No, wait. So you're saying that the modern automobile manufacturing tactics and techniques are all due to Webb Ball making a watch line.
Creating the first fully integrated assembly line of any kind on the planet.
So that's where the expression, "the guy that's on the ball," came from.
Yeah, here's what it's really a little more complex than that. There were several bits of infrastructure. Now he had the watches he needed, but he needed to take care. Nice to meet you. But he also needed a watch inspection system because his idea was that the watch had to keep time to +4, -6 seconds a day, had to be inspected by a watch inspector every 2 weeks. That meant he needed a bunch of watch inspectors. He built them from Bangor, Maine to San Diego, up into Canada, down into Mexico, tied them all together with Western Union, creating the first continental-wide unified timekeeping system. By 1900, he had all of North America telling time the same way. Now, there were over 1 million watches used on trains in 1900. Every one of them had to keep time to those standards, and it had to be inspected by a Ball watch inspector every 2 weeks. That meant no watch used in North America on a train was ever more than 1 minute off. That's stunning. Now, what happened is people became knowledgeable that if you want to know precisely what time it was, you'd ask a railroadman. And he would pull out his watch, whether it was a Waltham, an Elgin, a Hamilton, or a Ball, and he would say, "It's 12:03 on the Ball." And what he meant by that was, this watch is calibrated, this is dead on, that's the time. Now, that phrase evolved over time into a compliment of people who were competent and did their job. And you notice, though, you've never said that about somebody who was perpetually tardy.
It's true.
Right?
Wow,
Very
there
cool.
you have it. The origin of the phrase, "on the ball."
Mark, that's awesome. Thank you for that piece of information.
You learned so much at AOPA 2009. Incredible. History and fashion.
And you're on the ball.
Actually, I need to buy a watch. Excuse me.
Got 1,000